Hello, Fyodor. Thanks for coming to my interview. We'll be having a little conversation about your way of learning English
Sure.
as a second language. So I'll give you 10 questions, and you'll have to answer each question thoroughly.
hmm No
So
problem.
let's move on. First question: how did your previous teacher start her class when you were studying English?
So the first time I went to an actual English lesson was in Cambridge Learning Center. And I went to specifically Mr. Abdulaziz. That was the name of my first English teacher ever. The way he started his lesson was very interesting because he showed acceptance because
Mhm.
he noticed that my level was a little bit higher than others, but still he was very kind and open. He never, praised one student over others. He never, contrasted or compared students to each other. He was always accepting and kind, and
Mhm.
he treated everyone equally. That's what I liked about him.
Okay. Can you tell me whether learning English feels easier or harder for you now and then?
I think learning English feels easy for me most of the time, especially because now I have a relatively high level.
Mm.
So now when I learn something new, I pretty much just look at the word, look at the definition of it, see some usages, and then it's pretty easy. Sometimes it is difficult though, especially if it's like a super high level academic text.
Mm.
Sometimes I struggle to understand what it says or to, you know, retell the meaning of it.
Okay. So, third question is why are you learning English? Whether it is because you just enjoy or for your work or study?
Well, throughout my life, my reasons for learning English actually changed. In the beginning, I started learning English because I was scared of a school exam.
Mm.
I was in fifth grade and I was afraid that I wouldn't pass the English exam to the sixth grade because at that time I didn't speak English at all. So I was very scared of failing and disappointing my parents and not passing through the exam. So I decided to learn some English. I went to YouTube, I found one channel, I started learning from there, and I passed the exam. And after the test, I thought, well, English is actually pretty easy. Why don't I
Mm.
continue learning it for myself? And so I did. Then I just fell in love with the language itself. I started liking it, liking the phonetics of it, liking the grammar, the words. And then I just continued learning from my love to the language itself. So my reason kind of changed.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, which
Thank you.
skills are you most good at?
I would say speaking,
Speaking?
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I assume. So, have you ever been punished or rewarded in a way that helped you learn better?
I would not say so. I wouldn't say so. I always had a reason for learning English that was my
Mm.
own. So I didn't care what other people think, and I didn't care if I'm punished or rewarded. Mostly, I just learned for the sake of learning the language.
Okay. So, if your teacher gives you a self-study task, how did you do it?
Well, I've always had problems with self study.
Uh,
Self study was always difficult for me because I generally struggle with concentrating. For me, sitting down and, putting all the stuff away and concentrating on one task is pretty difficult. So generally it was hard, but because of my passion to English, when I
mm,
went to Cambridge Learning Center, most of the time I could manage it and do it more or less okay, but just because of my passion to English.
uh-huh. Can you think of different ways to use plastic cups besides drinking from them?
Plastic cups? That's an interesting question. I guess you could make a sculpture out of it, maybe.
Sculpture.
If you cut the cup and then put it together with some scotch or tape, you could make a sculpture, maybe. Why
Yeah,
not?
yeah. That was just kind of creative question.
Sure.
So, how do you feel before an exam when speaking in front of others, or when you need to work in a group?
So I will start by answering about the exam. If I have to speak in front of people during an exam, I actually feel confident. For me, I always feel very anxious and worried before speaking in front of people. But when I'm speaking, I become very confident.
Mhm.
I forget all of my worries, all of my questions, and I can do it pretty easily. And when it comes to group work is not easy. You have to be able to accept other people, other people's
Yeah, yeah,
opinions, and
exactly.
you need to know how to be patient as well. sometimes you might disagree with someone, but you have to bear with them simply because it's a group work. You're not working alone. So,
Uh-huh. So imagine you're in a new city and lost. Would you ask a stranger for directions or, well,
why not? Sure. That would not be the first thing that I would do, of course. First, I would try to go by the maps because maps these days they can make you a whole route. Like if you put a place, they can show you how to get there from your location. I would try that first. If that fails, I will surely ask a stranger. Definitely.
Yeah, okay. So here is the last question.
Okay.
So, do you ever notice yourself repeating certain grammar or vocabulary mistakes even after learning the correct form?
Yes, sometimes that happens. Sometimes that's especially true for me with vocabulary.
Vocabulary.
Sometimes I keep using the wrong word or a slightly wrong word, even though I know the correct form, the correct option. Still, I keep making the same mistake. So sometimes it
Yeah.
happens.
So, this is the end of our interview, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.
That was really helpful.
Thank you.